Hello, hello, Luminary. So, likely you're listening to this because you love astrology, and you might have used astrology in your personal life to maybe figure out if you were a good match for someone, or use astrology to understand some of different challenges that you are going through here and now. But what if I told you that there are more than one practice, there are many practical ways to use astrology, not just in your personal life, but in your work to make more impact with ease. In this episode, I'm going to be sharing 8 ways entrepreneurs and changemakers like you can use astrology to make more impact in your work. Welcome to the Savvy Luminary podcast, Astrology for Entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Leslie Tagorda, creator of the Astrobrand Method, business astrologer, brand designer, author, and Aquarius boss woman. I help visionary spiritual entrepreneurs and impact makers like you illuminate and amplify your unique star powers so you can be the luminary you were born to be. Hello, Luminary. Welcome back to another episode. I'm so excited to bring back kind of a shifted episode that I first released back in February of 2020, 2 years ago. I released an episode called 7 Ways Entrepreneurs Can Use Astrology. Now, things have changed a lot, of course, in the last couple of years, and we're always evolving. So I wanted to redo this episode a little bit over the last 2 years. If you want to take a look, I dropped that on February 9th, 2020, a couple of years ago. And I wanted to add another way. I just am so amazed at the power of astrology. I'm not here to change anybody's mind. If people don't believe in astrology, then go forth, do whatever you will. But I know that ever since I've started using astrology in my work, things have really just lifted off. So I want to share with you 8 ways that you can use astrology in your entrepreneurial journey, in your change making work, in your visionary entrepreneurship to make more impact with ease. Now, astrology, very pragmatic. Yes, it's very spiritual, but as a change maker, you are on a spiritual journey that shows up through your work. So before we dive into the 8 ways entrepreneurs and change makers can use astrology to make more impact, gosh, my Gemini rising is that's a lot of words. I need to really hone in how to make things shorter, but forgive me for now. It's just going to be that way at this moment in time. Before we go into there, I just wanted to share how excited I was with February. I really felt kind of just in not a slump per se, but just really slow moving. I had a lot of just things personally to take care of before I could really show up and do my work. And as I was kind of talking to my clients with their new moon rituals and things like that, I completely forgot to do my own ritual and to look at my own chart with our last new moon in Aquarius that was at Aquarius of 12 degrees. And so when I went to my chart finally, and I looked at Aquarius of 12 degrees, because I don't have all of the details memorized on my chart, but at my 9th house cusp, and those cusps, those doorways are potent parts of our chart. That 9th house doorway into that place of vision and publishing and expansion and bigger reach through your philosophy and your vision, that new moon right there at Aquarius of 12 degrees, exactly on my 9th house cusp. So why this is so important is because that 9th house, I'm very much a 9th house person. February, very exciting. After that kind of lunar new year, there's so many different levels that I need to really rise into the power of this month. First of all, on February 14th, it is my solar return. I have my birthday, and February 14th, as an Aquarius change maker, I have my sun conjunct Jupiter, which is like my brilliance is more like it can have the possibility to expand in that place of the ninth house. And with this new moon and everything, there's just like this big ask from my natal astrology, like the stars, the universe is asking me to dream bigger than I thought I could dream. And I feel like this has just been this constant message over the last 6 months to take up more space and be bigger. So I'm recording this on Wednesday, February 2nd, and there's just a few more hours left in that new moon phase. So I better get my ducks in a row to finish up my new moon intention. I have some bullet points, but I didn't really like sit down and put all of the pieces together. Now, the other thing, going back to what I mentioned about just not really feeling like that oomph to get things started, when the sun reaches anybody's ninth house cusp, it's leaving the eighth house. And as the sun travels through each of the houses, it kind of like gives us the vitality and the energy to accomplish the things related to that house in your life and your work. And so no wonder the last 30 days or so, like I've been really feeling like I need to do this inner work to do more of the shadow stuff and like kind of do it more inner healing, because the sun was going through my eighth house. And now that the sun sparked my ninth house, it's like ready to like show up. So going back to my birthday is significant because back in 2020, February 14th, this is, there were just whispers of COVID at the time circulating in China. And there were just whispers in the news of this deadly virus that was going around. And so on February 14th, 2020, I had a ginormous party to launch this humble podcast that you are listening to. So February 14th is such an important day, not just because of my birthday, but because it's the second anniversary of this podcast. So celebrating there. And then the third thing with this February 14th, 2022, why this is also just like a day that I'm really looking forward to, is that I am offering for the first time in 2022 my mini training, Written in the Stars, which is an introduction on how to read your natal chart for business. I'll be sharing a little bit more about that. I want to dive into the 8 ways change makers and visionaries can use astrology in their businesses. So at the end, if you're interested in Written in the Stars, this mini training, over 100 people have gone through this training over the last 2 years. And it is a prerequisite to all of my upcoming Astrobrand trainings and certifications, no matter if you are an astrology pro and know all the lingo or you are a newbie. This is your first foundational step into understanding my empowering flavor of astrology. So if you're already like, I know I want to join in on this, we get started on February 14th. Mercury, the planet of communications and understandings, moves into Aquarius that day also. So it's like time to revolutionize the way that you think and understand your business using astrology. So head on over to thesavvyluminary.com/mini training to sign up and listen to the end of this episode, where I will be talking all about this upcoming training, Written in the Stars. Lastly, for those 100 plus souls that have already joined me for Written in the Stars over the last few years, thank you. Thank you. Check your email, because I've sent you an email on how you can get some affiliate bonuses if you share this work with others. Okay, so let's dive into the 8 ways that you can use astrology in your business. I wanted to preface these 8 ways that changemakers and visionaries can use astrology in their work by prefacing that I love astrology as a spiritual tool. I'm not throwing shade at the people that love to use astrology as kind of a soul led work, because that part of our lives is very, very important. But what we tend to miss in spiritual entrepreneurship is that if we're focusing so much on our soul, and if we're focusing so much on the celestials and just kind of the intangible ways, we're missing the point about being a spirit having an embodied physical experience here on planet Earth. And part of that embodiment of being a spiritual being having a physical manifestation here on planet Earth is that we have to work, and not work to hustle or to toil, but work to contribute back into humanity, to contribute back into the collective for reciprocity and to make this world a better place. Now, our current society and the way things are being dismantled right now have given us so many fallacies and so many untruths for the last, some people would say the last 400 years, or some people would say the last 2,000 years, in terms of all these kind of societal constructs built around the patriarchy or colonialism. So, what I want to challenge us to do is to harness astrology, a esoteric and spiritual tool, but use them in our practical, pragmatic, embodied ways of living. Because yes, you can use astrology to find a soulmate, a quote unquote soulmate, or things like that. But what if we use astrology as a tool, a strategic tool with precision in our work, in our businesses, in our leadership, in our identity, right? The way we've been traditionally taught to do business is by working hard and hustling and striving. And all these fallacies are built on the oppressive systems where those in power through patriarchy, through colonialism, aim to extract every ounce of profit and resources at the expense of others and the environment. And the people that haven't fit into that narrow margin of supremacy, so to say, if you didn't fit into that model of supremacy, then you are just at the service to this system. And we can see how this is all breaking down. And so, especially for women entrepreneurs, for other people who don't fit that very narrow expression of supremacy, then we've taken that burden on our shoulders through society. So let me just tell you that that old way of doing business is bull, and it's time to break the systems so that you can work with ease and flow and still make the impact that you desire. Now, just because you're a woman, and maybe if you are a BIPOC entrepreneur or from a different marginalized, if you happen to be marginalized somehow, that doesn't mean that just because you are not a white cisgen male, that doesn't mean that you might not be replicating these oppressive systems in your businesses. Anytime you have met up with a business owner who tells you there's like one way to do things, or have given you some kind of high pressure sales tactics, or gives you like this very finite, like my path or none, right? Anytime you approach somebody who has that kind of philosophy on their business to pressure you into making a fear-based decision, do know that that person, even if they might be a woman of color who's still using those kinds of systems in their businesses, are just simply replicating oppressive systems in your businesses. And you know what? That is not okay. Now, if you are a business owner or an entrepreneur and you're looking to break out of all of those systems, then this episode is for you because astrology paints the picture of how you are meant to work for yourself. Because as an entrepreneur and a change maker, I know that your work is important to you, that you decided to be independent, to work for yourself because you wanted freedom from those oppressive systems, freedom to work when you want, to work for whom you wanted to do what you wanted. Yet, how often do you get caught up in these systemic traps to do more, work hard, make more, extract resources at any costs? No. When you take a step back and get to the root of why you chose to work for yourself, did you really say, so I can work hard and so I can burn out? So why work hard when you can work easily? Why struggle when you can be in flow? Why drain your energy in fear when you can work in heart-centered confidence? A way to work easily with more impact in your revolutionary entrepreneurial journey, to align to your stars. I want to share with you 8 ways you can use astrology as a practical and strategic tool to create ease in your leadership and work. So let's dive in. So, number 1, your strategic way to use astrology in your business is a tool for strength finding. Astrology is a super powered strength finding tool, more accurate than any personality tests, for which you can easily skew the results on all those online quizzes, right? Like you're figuring out how to answer and hack the quiz to give you a desired result. Astrology, there's no way to hack it. It's just there. It's a tool for you to use. When you look at your unique astrology, you see a treasure map that shows you your one-of-a-kind potentials and strengths. In astrology, your natal chart is as unique to you as your fingerprint, as your eye prints. There's no person that has a natal chart just like you, even if you are a twin. I've looked at twin twin charts before, and there are things that move so quickly that you can have completely different personalities and different needs and different strengths, even if you were born on the very exact place and just a few minutes apart. Imagine knowing and flexing your strength muscles, your zone of genius, and working almost solely in your strengths. How easy would it be to create opportunities that match your zone of genius? How impactful could you be if you focused on the work that fits your strengths? Imagine how much energy you could save if you didn't have to struggle doing things that you're not good at, or waste time doing things that you could do but are not in your zone of genius. Your natal chart shows you by zodiac sign, by elements and modalities, by planets and the relationships to other planets, your unique strengths and how to use them at your highest potential. Imagine validating that you're great at starting things, but not so great at finishing things. So, I've met so many people who give themselves so much grief because they're like, I love starting things, but I'm not so great at finishing things, right? Imagine if you knew that you were a great initiator and sparker, that you could hire out people and delegate completion tasks to others without feeling the guilt of not finishing. Or affirming that your intuitive and emotional gifts are an invaluable asset instead of dismissing them as worthless, especially for women who generally are more in tune with their intuitive and emotional selves, for that sense of just being able to heal. Our culture hasn't always valued those. And so if we have a lot of intuitive and emotional gifts, we don't necessarily see the value in them and we dismiss them. Everything in your natal chart is a gift. There's no such thing as, to judge something as good or bad. They are all gifts. And to honor your unique gifts is to be able to recognize them and use them with respect and responsibility. You, my love, came into this world with a gift as wisdom to offer through your work. It is your duty to recognize the value of your gifts and share it with the world. Now, a side note with all these personality tests, most of the modern personality and psychological tests that people use in their businesses all the time, from Myers Briggs to the Clifton Strength Finders, they were all built upon the archetypal psychology work of Carl Jung, the father of analytical psychology and a practicing astrologer. And so when people are using modern psychology in their businesses all the time, whether they are building out sales pages or creating an archetype for their brand, remember that we are coming back to these archetypal tools based on Jung's work. And he, as a practicing astrologer, created his archetypes from astrology. So it makes sense to dig into your star powers as represented by Western astrology to make aligned decisions in your leadership ability and business, just like you would use your personality tests, minus the wonky results because you knew how to skew those answers. It is a full circle to return back to astrology for your unique psychological assessments and tools in your business. Okay, number 2. The second way that you, as a change maker and entrepreneur, can use astrology in your business is for no copy brand positioning. All branding experts can agree that branding comes down to psychological archetyping, creating a seed of a feeling or an impression that a business or a person wants to leave upon others. Now, many of us think of branding as our logo, our visual identity, our colors. However, your brand is way more than your visual identity. You can think about your visual identity as that tip of the iceberg, but there's so much more underneath the surface that needs to support that part that everybody sees. Your brand is the hopefully memorable experience that someone has with your business at every single touch point. Your brand encompasses your identity, your values that you stand for, the voice that you have, the change that you want to make in the world, your vision of your future, who you serve. All of that is so much more important than just your logo. Now, your brand, every business, even every person needs a quote unquote brand, whether it's the brand for your business or your personal brand, because your brand then signals out, it broadcasts out everything that you are here to do. And to create a solid brand, it starts with your brand positioning. Okay, so the brand positioning is the method of defining a space in your industry that differentiates you from your competitors and distinguishes you as a leading luminary expert. In layman's term, your lane. What is the lane for your business? And that is your brand positioning. Because you know what? In brand positioning and your businesses, in this kind of equitable, reciprocal way, there's no such thing as scarcity and competition anymore. Instead, there's so many other people that do things just like you, but not just like you. So thinking about all of the people in your industry, they don't have to be competitors, but you have to differentiate yourself from those others so that your soul customers can find you and know your unique approach as a leading luminary expert. And you know what? Yes, I'm talking to you. You are a leading luminary expert, and you need to see yourself in that way by understanding your unique positioning. Now, astrology is the perfect branding tool because again, like I said earlier, there are no two people that have the exact natal chart. And your personal natal chart as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, is the start of everything that you need to do in your business. Yes, your business has its own chart, but if you don't have things nailed in and dialed into your own natal chart, it would be like if you're just focusing on your soul customers or focusing on your business chart, it's like building an empire on these teeny tiny stilts. So creating a solid foundation by first attuning to the strengths in your own natal chart will make a ginormous difference. So all of the different planets represent specific roles of you and your business. When you use your natal chart to position your brand's what, like the what you do that is so unique and your unique approach that's visualized by the sun, your why, like how do you measure success? Why do you do the things you do? What do you need for emotional security? And like, what are your underlying motives? That's based on the moon. The how you take lead, how you start things, how you initiate, how you guide others. That's represented by your rising. And your who. For whom do you serve? Who are you meant to commit to? Who are you designed to help solve problems and resolve issues? Based on your descendant. So you can easily position your business to differentiate yourself from all your other I almost said competitors, but there are no such thing as competitors, to easily position your business from all the other people in your field. You never have to drain your energy by guessing or comparing or copying again when you position your unique business according to your natal stars. Now, earlier I mentioned Written in the Stars, and that's going to be live on February 14th. And Written in the Stars is a foundational training and introduction into how to learn about all of these different representations and symbols in your natal chart. So if you're interested in that, again, I'll be sharing more information at the end. Number three, the third way that entrepreneurs and change makers can use astrology is for aligned leadership. As a change maker and an entrepreneur, you are a leader and you are being looked up to for guidance. You likely have a systemic view of a leader like I do. Like every time I think of a leader before I started doing this work, that view of a leader was an older white man, most likely dressed in a suit. But there are many different types of leaders and leadership styles. Your astrology can give you insight as to how others naturally see you and depend on you. Meeting them at this point gives you the permission to lead and guide in your own unique way while still attuning to what others need of you. Remember, I mentioned earlier that your rising sign easily leads the way and shows you your archetypal energy with which you are born to lead. With that your rising sign is so important to the root of the identity of your business. To become a leader that your ideal customers are magnetically drawn to, you must step into that leadership role as symbolized by your rising sign. Step into that style of guiding, tap into and initiate from this first step. Sometimes it is a stretch. I've heard from so many of us that resist that rising sign and leading from that place. And when you move past that resistance, leadership becomes so aligned and natural in your own unique way. No faking needed. Now, I just wanted to mention that I find that the rising sign is super interesting because a lot of us, including me, have determined that our birth time was inaccurate when we first started looking at astrology. And so we stumble upon our accurate birth time and we discover that we are a completely different rising sign. And for me, a long time ago, when I first put my natal chart through, I thought I was born at 1:42 a.m. But when I was cleaning out my mom's house back in 2016, just when I started doing all of this aligned astrology in my business, I came across another, like a baby book, and I realized that my birth time, it said 1:42 p.m. I was like, holy smokes, I thought I was at 1:42 a.m. And so with this realization, and I confirmed with my mom, and she's like, oh yeah, you were born during a cesarean, so it was in the middle of the day because the doctors were there. I was like, oh, that makes sense. And so at when I redid my chart, instead of a Sagittarius rising, which I thought I was, nah, it was a Gemini rising. And oh my goodness, I really, really, really resisted becoming a Gemini rising because I thought that I was going to be scattered and I was going to be all over the place. But when I finally started not resisting and stepping into the power of Gemini, I realized that my style of training and guiding is through presenting a lot of different ideas and guiding people to discern which idea was best for them, to engage more through dialogue and storytelling. I've really stepped into that Gemini leadership and continue to become a better and better Gemini. There is no end point. This is all an evolution. And so curious for you with your rising sign to notice if you've had any resistance to stepping into that power of your leadership. If you have resistance, where does that resistance come through? And how can you stretch into that and overcome that so that you can attune to your unique style of how you lead and guide others? The fourth way that entrepreneurs and change makers can use astrology is to easily attract your ideal customers. Now, earlier I was sharing how astrology identifies exactly the archetypal energy of your ideal soul customer that goes beyond ideal soul customer avatars. You are uniquely designed to serve a specific type of soul customer to solve a specific type of problem. And your astrology has the key into this specific energy. So your descendant sign and the planets in your seventh house give you this insight. Now, yes, you can skip straight to this ideal customer, but remember number 3, you need to step into your leadership role and of that rising sign. If you're not fully embodied into that magnetic part of your rising sign, no matter how much ideal customer your messaging that you do according to their archetypal energy, if you are not embodied, the ideal customer and your leadership are two sides of a coin. There are a magnetic attraction. And so ideal customers being drawn to you relies heavily on first you stepping into your leadership power. So if you feel that you are really stepping into your leadership power, then yes, go straight to your ideal customers, because your ideal customers have specific hopes and dreams, frustrations and fears that your astrology points specifically to these unique problems which you are designed to serve. Imagine how easy it would be to identify and call in your ideal customers and communities if you knew their exact archetypal energy, their specific hopes and dreams. And imagine how effortless it would be to make your offers to your soul customers. Number 5, entrepreneurs and change makers can use astrology to easily communicate brand messaging. Now, sometimes communications in your work can be challenging. What do you write about? What do you say? What is the personality that you need to have? What stories do you need to tell? How do you convey this to your copywriter if you have one? Now, for most of us, we spend so much energy copying others' methods and style as we seek our own. But you can stop the suffering of copying and critiquing when you tap into your aligned communication style that is represented in your natal astrology. There are so many astro keys that tell you your speaking style, your teaching style, what your mission is, what your purpose is, what your vision is, which we've been talking a lot about vision in this Aquarius season. And so when you're using astrology to tap into your own unique communication keys, your messaging becomes so easy. Astrology gives you specific communication style, how to communicate the words and the personality that resonates with your customers and your fans. When you use astrology to understand your own unique communication style, you can easily create engaging marketing and promotional messaging that is completely aligned with your unique energy. Number 6, how to use astrology for no fret decision making. As a business owner and an entrepreneur, you are faced with many thousands of decisions a day, from simple things as to which task to tackle first, to big things as to deciding on a new direction, a new client, or new opportunities. And sometimes these decision makings, we can get really overwhelmed or we can get stuck in fear. And if we get overwhelmed and stuck in fear, things come to a grinding halt. Or we cannot understand our unique energy and we go into these cycles of do too much and then burnout and do too much and burnout. So how do we find that right balance? So not only do you have decision fatigue, but you may also likely have the fear of making the wrong decision or the fear of just doing, which puts you in a place of stuckness. How much time and energy have been spent on making decisions in your business and your work? Now, when you understand your motivations, when you understand your emotional needs, you begin to understand your big why, as represented in part by your moon, in part by your purpose, and represented by a few things like your North Node and your midheaven, and Mars, your ability to tap into your physical vitality. And when you know these things about yourself, unique to you, you have an understanding of which way you're going and why you're going there. You know what you need to feel to be secure. You know how you need to feel in order to show up and be visible. You know what kind of energy that you need in order to create sustainable action and the reasons behind the stories that may trigger you and hold you back. Imagine how much easier your work would be knowing your deep whys, purpose, and physical vitality to help you take action and make decisions quickly without procrastinating or second guessing. All right, number 7, the ways that change makers and visionaries can use astrology to create sustainable business cycles. So similar to decision making, creating sustainable business cycles allows you to create space for working, creating, as well as resting. Astrology can be a giant cosmic clock. It's a system that repeats itself, some more quickly than others. There are collective cycles and seasons that affect all of us in mundane astrology. That's that kind of cosmic weather and timing. And there are personal cycles and transits that are unique to you. Tuning into this clockwork of cycles allows you to work with the cosmic energy instead of against it. How much ease and sustainability could you bring into your operations and your launch schedules if you knew the optimal times for you to initiate, sustain, pause, or recuperate? The collective cycle of the moon, of course, is so easy to use. Following the 8 phases of the moon allows you to work in a beautiful co-creative cycle of creating intentions with the new moon through harvesting and giving thanks to the full moon. Then there are all of the phases in between that tell you when you need to push through and take action, or you need to relax and rest. We all go through these collective cycles at the same time when we're using the moon phases. Now, your unique moon phase, based on the phase of the moon at the time of your birth, also gives you specific monthly cycles that you can learn to tune in to make your day-to-day decisions. And the solar cycles, as the sun moves through your natal chart on an annual basis, shows you your annual cycles that are unique to you based on your houses. Like how I mentioned earlier, that the sun just moved into my ninth house and I feel more vibrant instead of the last month when the sun was going through my eighth house. I felt more like doing that deep inner healing. Ultimately, often we are unconsciously feeling these ways. And when we're unconscious about doing things in this way, that we could tend to give ourselves guilt. Like I could have given myself guilt for wanting to do that inner work instead of like moving forward in my business. But when we see these cosmic cycles that are moving through our own natal charts, then we can give ourselves permission to work when necessary and to rest when necessary without guilt. Now, there are, of course, other collective cycles, like retrograde cycles, like we're still in a Mercury retrograde. By the time you listen to this, we might be out of our Mercury retrograde in Aquarius, but, Mercury retrogrades happen 3 or 4 times a year, giving us a chance to reset. Now, a lot of people you may know live in fear during Mercury retrogrades, but you really don't have to know to live in fear if you know how to harness and work with that reset energy. Instead of fighting against these kind of cosmic energies and creating friction during retrograde cycles, you can understand what needs to be reassessed and then be in flow. Now, there's so many different ways to harness the cosmic clock of astrology to work with more ease and flow and sustainability in your work. Now, imagine cultivating restoration and harnessing these energies on your behalf so you can rest with more ease, less guilt, and building in trust to work with your own cosmic cycles. Okay, lastly, number 8, how changemakers and visionaries can use astrology to courageously face fears for inner healing. Astrology is such a wonderful lens into your inner workings and spiritual healing. As a visionary, your work is part of your spiritual journey. And on your journey, the foes and challenges you face likely come as fears around worthiness, acceptance, and trust. Worthiness is related to your inner perceived value. If you don't feel worthy, you will be challenged to see your value and get paid sustainably or abundantly through your work. Now, there is no room for a starving artist mentality in your journey, as there is more than enough for all of us. Acceptance is related to your sense of belonging and love for yourself. If you don't love and accept yourself for all of your wonderful differences, you don't shine brightly and present yourself so that others can find you. If you don't create your own belonging, you run the risk of always feeling like an outsider. You can't love yourself if you can't accept yourself. You can't do your work if people can't find you, if you're hiding your brilliance as always being an outsider. And trust. Now, trust is related to your inner sense of authority and authenticity. You may not trust yourself to make the right decisions, giving your power away to others to make decisions for you. Or you may not trust others, hence blocking yourself off from meaningful connection. Now, whether your wound and your shadows and your fears are based in worthiness, acceptance, trust, or a little bit of each, your inner healing is not a one and done situation. It is a lifelong exploration where your soul has chosen the lessons it's meant to understand and is part of your spiritual entrepreneurial journey. Each time you're asked to revisit a fear or a shadow, even if you've done your inner healing before, you're going to experience that shadow from a different perspective. And each time you're asked to revisit a shadow, it is a sure sign that you are ready to up level. Your success in your work and your soul learning in your life is dependent on this evolution. You have a choice. You could avoid the shadow, or the shadow will keep you stuck in the same place and it'll continue to chase you. And I know people who have been stuck in the same place for decades. I do not wish that for you. or you have a choice to face the shadow, understand what the shadow wants you to understand, and befriend the shadow so that you can recognize it the next time around and move more effortlessly through its lessons. Know that your shadow is alchemical gold. Your shadows and your fears, when worked through and befriended, add to your wisdom that you're meant to offer through your work. Being an entrepreneur doesn't mean that you are fearless. I mean, every day I'm doing something that like makes me so scared. I'm actually talking with somebody right now asking me to take this big leap, and my my scared self, my shadows are like, no, you can't do that. That's just too much. And my inner self is like, yes, you have to take that big leap. And so, who are you going to listen to if you're not facing your own fears? And now astrology gives you massive insight into the shadows you're meant to work through and how you're meant to give yourself some emotional, tender, loving care to validate and prioritize how you need to feel. Your natal astrology points to specific karmic energies through different placements and relationships like your moon, Saturn, Chiron, and Pluto to reveal your soul's prescription to inner understanding and healing. And your natal astrology timing through your personal transits gives you understanding on your unique cosmic timeline for different transformative healings. Now, imagine understanding your inner life to validate your emotional needs and gain a new perspective on your personal challenges in your work. What more could you accomplish and what more power could you step into, knowing that each time you are asked to face one of your shadows and fears, you could work through it with an open heart without getting stuck in fear or procrastination in your work? What would this mean for you on your entrepreneurial journey when you could face your fears using astrology? Oh my goodness, that was a lot of information to cover, but I hope you can see how powerful a tool astrology is for a change maker and a visionary entrepreneur. Now, if any of this sparked any curiosity in you and you're like, I want to deepen my astrological knowledge and create a solid foundation, I'm offering Written in the Stars live starting February 14th through the 18th. Now, Written in the Stars is my introductory course, and I'm going to be offering it live twice this year. So once on the week of February 14th through the 18th, 2022, and another time again, I think in August. We haven't yet set the dates. This training is available on demand, and you could take it by yourself without the live version. But the live version is so special because in the live version, I'm going to be showing up every day for office hours at 12 p.m. Pacific. And, don't worry about not being able to show up to the office hours. You'll have a chance to submit your questions beforehand, and the recordings will be available for you. But I'll be showing up every day live, and there's going to be a private Facebook community because that true revolution and change doesn't happen by yourself. It happens in community. And that's my absolute favorite thing about Written in the Stars is teaching and creating this most sacred sense of community. So if you are interested in joining Written in the Stars from February 14th through 18th, the doors are now open, and you can head over to thesavvyluminary.com/mini training, all one word. Each day, you'll be delivered a mini training in the form of a video. There's also transcripts with little mini exercises. Each training is designed to take about 30 minutes of your day to go through and to apply it in your own natal chart. At the end of our 5 days together, I'll be offering a masterclass called Illuminate, where we start to connect the dots of all of the important pieces in your brand for your one-of-a-kind, no guess, no copy, no comparison brand positioning. I just love Written in the Stars and sharing with you how to read your natal chart for business. Now, This class, I just want to make sure that you know that this is an introductory class. If you've ever learned how to speak a new language or to read music, astrology is just a new language, where first you need a really solid foundation of understanding all of the symbols and what they mean. In future trainings, I'll be sharing more interpretation. This class will not have too much interpretation, but I'm more than happy to answer your questions. On the first day, we'll be covering the chart to decipher your natal chart and symbols in 360 degrees. Second day, we'll be talking all about the zodiacs and how to empower all of your archetypal energies that you have. And then the third day, we'll be talking about the houses so that we can view your business in a holistic way as a whole, not just as like individual parts, and see how everything plays together. On the fourth day, we'll be talking about the aspects to unlock the relationships between your natal energies. And then, of course, on the fifth day, we'll have the Illuminate Masterclass so that you can learn to put your sun, moon, and rising together to eliminate your brand positioning. There's a couple of bonuses. We have unlock your hidden powers using your interceptions if you have duplicate signs or missing signs in your houses. And then there'll be a bonus training also called Personalize Your Lunations and Transits. So in my weekly forecasts, my business starcasts, if you hear me talk about the degrees and the different positions of the different planets, and you're like, what is Leslie talking about? This bonus will show you how, will let you know how to find those degrees and those events in your natal chart so that you can start to personalize your own transits. Now, if you are new to astrology, this training, this mini training is definitely for you because I'm going to set up a great foundation to being able to understand all of the astro lingo and what everything means in your natal chart. And if you already know the foundations of astrology and maybe you're even already a practicing astrologer, this class can still be for you because I'm going to be sharing my unique philosophy and approach and meanings to each of the symbols and all the things in your natal chart so that you can use it in your brand, your business, your leadership, and your work. Lastly, if you are interested in any of my upcoming Astrobrand trainings like Star Powered Position or my upcoming Astrobrand certification, Written in the Stars is your essential step. It is a prerequisite to taking any other more advanced topic with me. So please, please, please sign up. I get so excited teaching this core foundational energy written in the stars. Head on over to thesavvyluminary.com/mini training and come celebrate with me. We'll be celebrating my birthday, my solar return. We'll be celebrating my podcast, the 2-year anniversary. We'll be celebrating Mercury moving into Aquarius, and we'll be celebrating you for taking this first step to build your foundational purpose in your work. Awesome. So thank you for listening all this way, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in Written in the Stars. If you love this podcast, please consider doing me a favor and heading over to Apple iTunes and leaving me a rating and review. Your rating and review helps this humble podcast get seen and found by more listeners like you. Please share the love.